we're gonna hear you talking and me talking most of the time. You're not talking right now.
We're close. Hold on to your pants there. We're almost ready.
Alright, so can you talk a bit?
Yes, I can talk
Say
a bit. Say Smith?
Say sweet things to it.
Sweet things to it. Sweet. Sweet, sweet. You can't hear me? See, I hear it. It's a delay.
Say Smith.
There it is.
Sweet things to it.
Alright, so go ahead and you can either what you can do is kill that
Right.
Is a delay.
and start over when you're ready, or you can just keep on going.
Just keep going. Can you probably cut the few minutes at the beginning?
So go for it.
All right. So are we live then?
Yeah, you're live.
All right. We are starting. For those, is there a link?
Yeah,
Have
I'll
you
send
posted
that
a
out.
link?
I'll send it out.
All right. All right. So, okay, the class is me. Just people have asked me how I do my artwork, how's my approach to my artwork, and how do I do it, blah blah blah. And I try to explain through things, and people are kind of like, probably don't get it. So I'm just gonna show you guys how I do everything because a lot of people think it might be a pretty heavy involvement or whatever, a lot of work, but it's not really. So that's why I want to do this, so I can show you how easy it is, and hopefully it gets some of you guys motivated to push yourselves to create some awesome artwork. All right, I'm gonna start with the image from the title page that I created on our events page on Facebook. I don't know, should I explain how I come up with these ideas, or do you guys want to hear that? Okay,
Go ahead, tell us.
right. So, okay, I'll tell you how I get my ideas or how I think about it before I even start drawing. Some of this stuff, like this one's based off a reference image, actually. It was a photo, and I lost it. I wish I had it. So when I first start out, this is the final image, of course. I come up with an idea, or if I base this off a image, I'll actually change the image a little bit. It's not 100% accurate. Like, I use the reference more for either a pose or just a inspiration or a reference for the clothing and stuff like that. I really like this girl's outfit, so I wanted to draw it. And she actually, I don't think the photo had her holding a briefcase, and she was inside a truck. So I decided to put her outside in a park, and my idea behind this was maybe she's leaving a town to start a whole new life or something like that. So that's kind of like get an idea and inspiration. What's the motivation behind the person? And I try to capture that, like through the facial expression, the pose, and the gesture. I got lazy on this one. The background's a photo. So I actually just start with a sketch. This is a rough sketch. That's the original sketch that I did for this image. And then I worked off of that. As you can see, there's some tweaks and changes between that and the final image. After when you start down, you know your basic life drawing skills and steps is like you just start off with your gesture, and then you fill in, you build up to get a pretty good idea of what you want to draw. So what I do next after I do the rough sketch,
Life drawing skills.
Sorry.
there's an echo in here. What I'll actually do is, of course, you start off with the line work. I'm going to shut down all these. These are all my backgrounds. Put those in a folder. And that's the actual clean line art that I do. Whoop. So what I usually do is I'll get the sketch and I'll drop down the opacity value on it, and then I'll draw right over it. And I have things, I work in layers, so because I'm not a perfect artist. I'm pretty crappy at drawing faces, actually, and then I do a lot of photoshopping to fix the positions of the eyes, the nose, or whatever, the tilt of the head. I do. I use the Wacom tablet. I use a stylus. So I'll do a quick demo. So of course you start with a new layer, and my tablet is, there it goes. It's alive. All right. Usually, where are you at? Why isn't that showing? Okay. Like a lot of people think the line art on my stuff is like one fell clean line. I mean the line work is clean at the end, but I'm taking like 1,000 strokes to get that one line because I'm pretty picky on the way the line is. I try to keep things as loose and try not to make it look as stiff as you can. Just try to make it look as organic. So I'll just go in and of course now I'm probably gonna hit these lines exactly how I want it, but that's my step right there, what you just saw. I'll just take one line. It's a basic round brush. There's nothing too crazy about it. It's one of these, and I go to my brush settings, and I'll actually just turn on the pressure sensitivity on it, and that's it. I mean that's my brush for the line work, and I usually work at about 5 pixels to get that line. So I'll keep working on it and chipping away like that, and then till I get my line done. Of course I'll zoom out on some of these if the line's too long. Until I get it right, I'll keep doing it, and it's pretty monotonous. And then you go back and you just clean it up until you get what you need. That brush is pretty thin, so I'll probably get a...
Did you have something for it to trace maybe, or?
Well, if you're following along, if you already have a old sketch or something like that you cranked out away in the past, you could probably just pull that up and clean it up so you can follow along. So, I mean, this is pretty much it. Keep doing that, and then I'll work like the body on one layer and then the head on another layer. That way you can adjust the positions of them and resize it. Let's say this is on another layer now, so that way you can, if it's too high, too much neck, not enough neck, too big, too small, you just go in there, resize it to wherever you need it. So I like to work in layers that way through specific body parts. And that's the line work. I mean, it's just simple, clean, then and that's what you end up usually. Then once you're done with that, you get rid of your old sketches, and after that, then I work on shading usually. This is my shading layer. Looks kind of messy right now, but when I start working on my shading, I actually just lay down the core darks first, which is this layer here. And it's a simple block shading. That's it. As you can see, there's no real gradients on it. It's just pretty hard lines, and it's just your core darks. It's simple. It's very similar to what an anime approach, I guess you could say, cell shading approach. And then I just adjust the opacity on the layer, and I like to work with blues and purples or whatever for the shades. I rarely use straight up blacks or grays, because my artwork, I like to keep it pretty saturated with color, and I feel like blacks and grays will take away from that, and it makes it look kind of muddy and bland, in my opinion. But everybody works differently. But that's the way I work. I set my layer usually to multiply afterwards, and you'll see later how it affects the color underneath it. Once I'm done with that, I'll actually duplicate that layer, and I will just blur it out. Actually, this one I did a second layer. This one actually has more of a gradient, so I layer my shading so it's not so harsh on this one. Gives a little bit more softer look to it. And actually, this is the layer that's bloomed. It's the exact same layer as this, the core darks. I'll just duplicate it, and I'll adjust the brightness or the opacity accordingly, and it's, I don't know, I'll just use let's duplicate it. So I'll get that and I'll play around, and I'll actually just go to the filters and go to the blur, Gaussian blur, and then just make my adjustments there. And however, you can see it better when you turn on the other layer. And of course that one's also on multiply, and we can see the effect here. And it's just sitting here and playing with the settings, really. Whatever you want, you can get whatever effect you need. It starts softening your lines up there. It gives it kind of like a, I don't know, cell shaded look, I guess. Kind of pops. I don't know if you guys ever paid attention to cell shades on actual 2D animation film cells. If you ever look at it, there's always like a subtle drop shadow to where the character is at, because the cell is transparent and the actual painting of the character is a solid color. So anything behind it, it almost has a little bit of a drop shadow. I mean, you can't tell, but it's there. And I kind of try to capture that with my artwork. I just enjoy that look. And this is just the same thing, except I think I just took a soft brush on this one instead of the hard brush, and it's just it gives it more of a airbrush look to it. And I dropped the opacity down because I don't want it to be too dominant. So that's your base for the shading, and then I think these are just certain areas that I wanted to pop. Like I wanted a little bit harsher core darks in underneath the hat and the hair. So I just work in layers, and it's the same color for all of them, just playing with the opacity and multiply levels. And this is the same layer as the shading one, except this time it's blurred, same effect. And then the eyes. I always do the eyes separately for some reason. I don't know why. I think you just have more control in it. And for this one, the background has some trees in it, so I wanted to capture a little bit of leaves being casted onto her. I mean, it's nothing specific, but it's more of a noise, really, just to kind of represent that there's foliage shining through in the park there. Then usually after the shading, I'll go ahead and jump into the colors. And it's usually just pretty solid. They're solid colors. There's no gradients, no nothing, except for right here. For some reason, I got some shading here. Just give it a little bit of color there. But other than that, I mean, as you can see, everything's just solid. Everything's separate layer. What I usually do is I'll use the line. Well, start a new layer, and I'll just wand tool it, make my selections. That's the face, and I'll expand the selection, modify it by a couple of pixels, 2 or 3. That way, if there was any weird artifacting around the lines, you're underneath the line by now. Let's zoom in. You can see that the selection is overlaid underneath the outline there for a second, for a few pixels. And then whatever color, I'm just going to do a random color here just to demonstrate. Whoop, wrong one. You can zoom out. I'm using my mouse laptop keyboard, and it's kind of weird. So, and that's it. I mean, that's how I fill in the colors, however you want it. Delete that guy. And then you do it till you're done. And I'll usually, this one might have been messed up already because I messed with my file. But usually I'll put the skin tone on one color. That way, it's easier to adjust. Like, you don't know what, you might have an idea what you want for your background, but until you lay it down, you don't know how your colors are going to react to it. So I'll usually just have them on a separate color. That way I can adjust the saturation, darkness, make some minor tweaks, or even just change the color all around. Like, especially on clothing, sometimes you want to get your colors matched correctly, or you change your mind on something. And if you keep everything separated, it makes it a lot easier to make those changes. So that one's got the eye makeup there, and I think this is the blouse, actually, the white shading, and then the hair, of course, and the rest of the outfit there. So work as many layers as you can. It makes your life a lot easier. And then at the end, you work on your background. like I said, I chose a photograph because I was being lazy this go around, and I blurred it. Did some blur effects. I think I did some maybe dry brush filters and stuff like that. Just played around with it. There were some buildings in the background and some boats and stuff that I didn't like. It was pretty industrial looking, so I took them out and photoshopped and cleaned up the image a little bit. And then it all comes together here. Oh yeah, and then at the end I add the highlights. Some blooming effects there, and actually hardcore highlights on there just to give it a little pop. And then after that, after this is all done, like I said, I like the whole film cell shaded look. So I actually duplicated the character, and I actually blurred it out, dropped the opacity behind her, and it gives it a little bit of a pop. Kind of unrealistic if you look at the background, but it does help the character pop off the page, give it more of a 3D look. And I play with some effects with the sun, haze there, just to give a little bit more ambiance and environment to it. Color correction here, and that's it for that background. And then on top of it all, I'll actually duplicate the whole layer towards the end when I'm getting done, and it adds this whole other effect to it, washes it out a bit, gives it more of a wore out photo look to it. Mess around with some blurs here. As you can tell, this one has a mask on it. See how I changed the opacity on it. You can see the blur come in more there. Helps it give that vignette look. I like I don't know, I'm just a fan of just haze and bloom effects and stuff. Sorry, that was my phone. Somebody's outside, yeah. So actually what I'll do on this photo, I'll take the whole flattened image and I'll give it what was the filter called? Artistic. Sorry. I'll actually use a diffuse glow here. And the diffuse glows actually takes the background color and adds it to where the highlights are at, or the brightest parts of the image. Of course, right now it's not white, so whatever color you want in the background, so it'll add it more. You could adjust how much you want it to glow in here, and it gives you some graininess and clear amount and stuff like that. And you play around with your settings here to your liking. And then I'll drop down the opacity on it. And that one I actually wanted some of the image to not be as glowy as the rest of it, so I added a mask to it. There you go. And more effects here for the highlights, some blooming effects. And this is another thing that I like to do that helps push that kind of cell shaded look, is I'll actually go in and take my outline and I'll flatten it and I'll duplicate it and I'll actually blur it out, and it helps it give that cell shaded look. I'll show it to you guys. So, and it again, it's just a simple Gaussian blur. That's all it is, and it gives that pop, that 3D look. So when it all comes together, that's it. I mean, that was the breakdown right there. So, I mean, that's pretty quick and easy. If you guys want to, like, if you have any questions or whatever, want me to go over something else, or anything? Anybody? How do I draw the pretty ladies? Like I said before, I'll use photo references, or I'll just make them up from my head. You know, it's just inspiration, whatever hits me. That was for that one. All right, any questions for this image? I always try to stylize my stuff to my style. So, I mean, I'll use a photograph for reference, but I'll redraw it as a cartoon, obviously. And like this one, the facial expression, I wish I had the photo. Her facial expression isn't the same. I changed it up a bit to make it the mood that I wanted her to have. So lots of practice, I guess. Figure study, figure drawing.
Is there any reason you work in RGB versus CMYK?
I rarely print my stuff. So RGB is native to your monitor. CMYK, once you, like, if I was to grab this image, let's try it out right now. You can see, okay. I also like my stuff to be pretty saturated. CMYK doesn't crank out nice saturated colors, the ones that I like anyways. So, and most of my stuff is displayed on monitors, so there's no need. If you do a lot of printing stuff, you definitely want to work in CMYK. So, mode, CMYK. Okay. Well, that time it didn't really change much, so. This image would be safe for printing. Now we know. So, any more? Any more brain busters? All right, I'll go through another one. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, like I said, it's not a whole lot. It's not very impressive, but that's the reason why I wanted to show you guys so you can see that it's not really that hard, really. Do this one. It's a quicker one, and then I'll do one more, which has a little bit more craziness. This one was a fan art piece for a comic book from Canada. There's a character. This one has more of a graphic look. I used a fatter brush on this one, same approach, thicker lines though, same round brush, and this one has a little bit more texture to the clothing and stuff like that. So I'll show you my original. This one I actually have the reference image that I use. Blow it up bigger. So she's a cosplayer, and she created this character for her own. She designs her own costumes, and they made a character based off her cosplay, a comic book. So she called herself the Hornet. That was the photo, and this is the drawing, the original sketch that I did. So you can see it's pretty rough. It's not clean. And again, drop down the opacity on the sketch. Sometimes I'll take a photo of a sketch that I did, scan, but usually I actually just sketch out of the Photoshop with the tablet. Then I'll go back, clean it up. Same thing. I use the thicker brush on this one. Let's see.
Is there a certain type of brush you always use?
It depends. Like certain, right?
For printing?
It's the same. Like it's the default settings. I just turn on.
Or I meant like a 9 pixel.
Right. Like the last one, I think it was about 8 pixels wide. This one, I don't know. It was bigger than that for sure, because you can tell the line weight is a lot thicker on this one. And I mean, it just depends how I want the image to look like. I don't really have a settings that I have memorized or anything like that.
Did you sketch the straight lines of the gun too, just with the pen, or did you
Yes. If you look closely, the lines are all pretty kind of. It's actually kind of messy. You can see some weird overlaps here, but I mean, there's only so much I want to clean before I get lazy and bored, and I just want to move on. So see, all these lines, they're not perfect. I mean, once you print it out and from far away, it looks good, but you can see here there's some mistakes. It's pretty gruff. So again, huh?
What resolution are you working on?
When I first do the sketch, it's usually like an 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image, and then after that, I try to shoot for 11 by 17 at 300 DPI. So that's usually my final output. Because eventually I do print these out for Comic Cons or whatever artwork and stuff like that. So yeah, this is obviously a thicker line. I don't know.
Do you ever rotate or revert the image to get a better line?
No, I rarely do. At the end, I'll sometimes mirror the image just to see if there's anything off balance, but I kind of hate doing that because it usually is, and I don't want to redo it. So I just want to move on to the next drawing. I get bored easily. Okay, with this one, lighting and shading was probably pretty big experimental for me because she had kind of a latexy look to her outfit. I'm gonna separate these things out. Alright, those are all highlights. Same thing, shading, core dark, simple, nothing too hard. There's no gradients, no, you're just blocking in your shading with this. Some of it's kind of messy, whatever. Like I said, I like to move on. And then you do the blooming effect that I talked about earlier. This one I actually didn't do the blooming effect too much. I actually went in there and added more of a, took the soft brush, airbrush look, and kind of lightly added more shading where I felt like it needed to be represented. Give it some gradients, give it softness, give it a little bit more 3D look to it. And then the eyeballs, again, for some reason, I always do them separately. And then the lighting on this one is where I played around with quite a bit. I didn't want the lighting to be the same on everything, so a lot of this is it's separated out. This is more of I added a little bit more, played around with some rim lighting, backlighting on this one. This one's just on the rifle. And these are hardcore highlights. And again, I think on this one I actually, let's see if I can get this one. Yeah, that one I treated the lighting the same I did as my core dark shading. It's just a hard light, and I went back and kind of erased a little bit just to give it a softness to it. And then it's the same thing duplicated, I think, except just to give it that pop. Of course, the core dark, the core colors, those are just solid colors. There's nothing to them, no gradients. It's all in one layer. At one point, these were all separated, and I probably collapsed it somewhere along the line by accident. Usually like to keep my stuff separated out. And the thing that kind of people liked on this were the visor, the effects on the visor. Everything's all separated out, like I said. There's some shading to give shading for the glass on the face, the tint of the glass, and the actual glare and reflections. And these are all on separate layers, nothing to them. I just dropped the opacity, and that was it, to your liking. So I think that's pretty much for that one. Simple image, quick, solid color background, no fuss, no muss. So any questions, anything?
In my application, I'm looking at adding this for either lasering it or in turn converting it into embossing plate.
Right.
So the artwork in that case ends up being one color, black,
Right.
and a lack of black,
Right.
or black and white.
Right.
Can you convert that?
We can.
First in the gray shade and then in black and white, so we can get a look at it.
Oh yeah. We could probably do a quick. Oh god, clicking stuff. Hue saturation. That's grayscale right there. And then I could collapse this down. Boom. And then we'll just convert it to bitmap. Oh, why are you not bitmapping? Is it too big? Let's try this one. There we go. Well, that didn't get what I want. Let's do a half. We'll just leave it at default for right now. See what it looks like. Wow. That's all halftone.
I didn't know you could do that.
So
Cool.
that's what it looked like, solid black and white. I don't know if that would suit your purpose.
That would work great on the laser, but
Mm-hmm.
if you go back and do the 50% threshold, that's your true black and white for the application I'm looking at.
Bitmap and go 50% threshold
Yeah.
and okay. All right, there we go. You'd have to do some adjustments here and there, but
Yeah, absolutely.
all right. Anything else? Any more questions? All right.
Have you ever tried out like free programs like GIMP or anything, or just work with Photoshop?
I learned Photoshop, so that, and I know Photoshop, so that's why I stick with it. I messed around with Manga Studio. I really didn't understand it. I would need somebody to kind of help me out to understand the layout and what things do on it. It's very different from Photoshop. That's the and Illustrator. When I do professional freelance work, I usually end up cranking it out in vector format, so I use Illustrator. And I think we're getting a class on that later on, so
Yeah.
I think Ray's going to do that one. So, yeah, I mean, in Illustrator would be fairly similar to this approach as far, because everything's pretty hard. You're just adjusting some opacity maps and stuff like that, and that's it. So, like I said, in my opinion, it's not too hard. It's really just a stylization that's probably what gets people. But my method here, as you can see, is fairly simple and basic. It's not. I'm one of those guys that get caught up too much with the technology of things sometimes, and if I start messing with filters or other settings and stuff like that, then I'm caught up in just concentrating in the program and the technical aspect of it, and then I lose sight of what I'm drawing. And when I mess with that kind of stuff, you can tell it suffers, because like my characters aren't as organic or as smooth. They come out a little bit more stiff because I'm not concentrating on the actual art piece, and I'm distracted by the technology side of it. And so I try to keep things as simple as possible because I'm a simple-minded man. So we're done with that one, I guess. If there's any more questions? No questions. We are going to be done with this class quick. All right, I'm do one more. This one's a little bit more elaborate. I was trying to actually recreate as if it was a screen grab or one of the freeze frame cells from an animation on this one. So I know in 2D, traditional 2D, they do their backgrounds in paint, more of a painterly style. So that I wanted to capture the background a little bit more detail, a little bit more painterly on this one. The classic Looney Tunes, the old school Disney animations. I love that look. So same thing with the character on this one. I don't know if you want me to go and repeat all that again. Outline, same thing, blurring of the outline, flat colors. This is the character, is on a separate layer, as you can tell. But this one, the difference is the background. I did more of a painterly. All the trees are actually, all the tree trunks, all the tree branches are actually solid color. As you can see, this one, I do everything in layers, like I said. The foreground's on the foreground layer. It's above everything else, and then the background's on the background layer. This is a larger tree trunk up front, or the tree branch that's broken down here. Actually, it's just a solid color, except I had flattened everything on here. I just grabbed my favorite. I played around with some grunge brushes, and there's no gradients. I mean, it's all solid colors. There's very little gradient into it. Try to keep it as simple as possible, like I said, because I'm one of those guys, if you start painting, like, for some reason I'm just going to try over render it, and I end up overworking it. I get distracted again. So I try to keep things as simple as possible. There's a background. the big log down here. Everything's in layers again. Like I said, it's easy to adjust. If you need to move stuff around, like maybe it's off by a little bit or something, you have no problem moving that one branch around. The shading is on a separate layer on this one. And at one point I did have all the grunge and all the solid colors on a separate layer. The grass and stuff is actually clip art stuff. I think some of these are brushes that are generic. I know the flowers is a generic flower brush in Photoshop that just scatters them around, and you could play with the settings of it using the colors of the foreground and the background, and it gives you a mix between in there. So you get a nice variation on the colors of the flowers there. And the grasses, I think the grasses might be hand drawn, but these leaves for sure are just kind of like clip art kind of things. Another tree trunk in the background there, shading. Nothing too hard. It's all fairly simple. As you can see, these lines are, I just added some tree bark lines there. They're simple texture lines. They're nothing fancy. Just gives it some noise. Whoops. And then you just layer it. Add your trees there, bark, your grass, big old log there. So you can see I don't, underneath the log there's nothing there, so you can just leave it as is. Flowers, they're just kind of floating there.
Before you compress all this, how big is your file?
Like I said earlier, like when I start with my original concept sketch, they're usually like 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image, so it's not very big. And then once I get to my liking, my final output is 11 by 17 at 300 dpi. Here's a rough sketch that I worked off of. Just play around with some placements of the trees and stuff like that. And then the background is just, again, the same thing as scattered leaves in the background for the trees. And then I compressed it all, and then I blurred it out just to give it that nice depth of field, forced perspective kind of feel to it.
Do you usually work on a laptop when you're working?
Yeah. It's the only machine I got is right here, right in front of me. So I'm about to buy a new one here this summer. But yeah, it's a regular PC, nothing special, just a Hewlett Packard laptop. And that's pretty much it for this one too. So I don't know if you got any questions or whatever.
Usually keep your tablet like right in front of you.
Yeah, I work with it at the way you see my machine set up right now is the way I have it usually set up. And I actually have a external keyboard at home, so I use a regular keyboard. So my laptop's actually to the side, and I have a monitor a good monitor in front of me, and that's the one I'm looking at. And then I, pull up my references on this other screen over here, or my Netflix movie or whatever that's playing.
Have
So
your reference photo off this
yeah,
side.
so yeah, but usually this is it. This is my workstation. I use this for freelance, this is everything. So nothing special. I don't have any giant $10,000 monitors or anything like that. So yeah, I'm about to though, but not yet. So
How long does it take you for this one to go from
this one from sketch to finish probably took me about 12 hours maybe at the most, the very most. But usually like the other one, like the more simple ones like the previous one, that I could do that in one night, like 3 hours or something like that.
sketch?
Huh?
Does that include the original sketch?
Yeah. Actually, most of my time goes to the original sketch because I'm pretty finicky on gestures. Like, let me show you. Usually I'll just, like I said, 1,000 by 1,000 pixel image, and then work on a separate layer. And I usually just start with, like I said, a gesture. Like I said, I just rethought that whole image right there within a second. I didn't even think about it, but just change the gesture, feet, and then you slowly just start adding to it. And you kind of want to get kind of quick with it, because I feel like the quicker it is, the looser it has of a feel, the more organic it feels. It doesn't feel as stiff, like a statue or anything like that. Let's say she's got some hair going on over this way. So it usually starts like that, and then you build from there. That one was a little too big, whatever, and like I said, it's really rough. You just shrink it down if you want it. Fit it in the page there, and then you keep going with it. I don't know, she's hanging off something there. But go from there. God damn it, now my brain is going. So this is a gun now. It's a rifle. She's going to have a knife in her hand. And this is how it goes. This is my brain working. And then you just get ideas. You keep adding on to it. Give her some cool gear. Whatever. Need a backpack.
Nice to see that you start out really scribbly.
Yeah. And then once you get an idea of what you want, then I will, if I like the gesture, I'll actually go back and then I'll go in there and try to trace that gesture and capture it. I try to capture the energy of the original gesture drawing. That's my thing, I think, that I try to concentrate on. And this is the part of my drawing process that actually takes the longest, because I'm pretty picky on how I want my drawing to look like, the gesture. I want to capture something. I want to capture energy, some kind of emotion, some kind of motivation, and some of my drawings, I think that's kind of what helps separate my stuff from a lot of people's stuff, because I noticed a lot, like if you go to I used to go to conceptart.org, and it used to be CG Hub. There'd be some amazing artists that create these wonderfully, beautifully rendered out concepts, but you look at them, they're kind of like just generic looking people. I understand you're just trying to design something here, but I always felt like there's got to be some kind of emotion, some kind of motivation, some kind of drive behind your image. So, that's how I go, and then from there you clean it up more and more, and then you get to a point where you like it, and then I just blow it up, make it fit on, like I said, I try to fit it on 11 by 17 size image and go from there. And then the final image is those steps that I just showed you repeatedly beforehand. So, any more questions? Any more ideas or discussions? We want to get into politics and religion. All right. So, yeah, that's my process. This is the beginning, and then it ends up to those polished looking images, and that's it. And drawing lots of hours.
Okay, is there one stage where you're like, okay, these are going to be my final lines? So you go over the sketch and then start making the final outline.
Right. Let's say, like I said, I always see how that's already cleaner line than the previous one, and then I get this one pretty close to a final image, So, and then I blow it up, and when I blow it up, I'll drop the opacity on this layer, and then again, that's the one where I use my clean lines, and it'll take me a while the line work takes me the longest, really.
And then get them nice and smooth. Do you try to make quick strokes, or do you?
Let's play around with this one then. Blow up this image with 300. As you can see, when you blow it up, your line blurs out, so you definitely got to go back and clean it up. So like I said, I'll drop the line down, and then from there, for some reason today I'm freaking hitting these lines, so it kind of sucks. But usually at home,
We got an hour, so go ahead and do it.
So you just do it over and over again until the line looks
right. I think because I'm not really thinking about it, and I'm distracted by everybody else, but so yeah, it's pretty much this. and then go back and clean what you need to clean. So yeah, pretty much that. Ditto. And then you go till you're done. Anything else? No?
Keep on going. You gotta do that.
Could you shade something for us? Could you take us step by step in shading something?
All right.
Actually, can you do the whole tutorial again in Spanish?
SAP. We don't have
It only
S.
took you 12 hours.
You need to reach out to the Hispanic guy.
I've been called faux Mexican, so I don't know if I can. Let's do this. Oh, it's already done. All right, now pretend it wasn't done. This one didn't get done. I'm still kind of working on it because I wasn't happy with it. That's the original sketch, and then cleaner lines. All right. Does anybody? I got a question for you guys. Does anybody know how to swap out the eyedropper? Because for some reason, whenever I select anything with the eyedropper, it goes to the background color. See how the background color is changing on there?
Oh, weird.
I usually just hit X to swap the black and white.
Right, but by default, when I was using the eyedropper, it would go to the foreground color, and I don't know how that happened. So, anyways, so this is me shading, and go. So usually I'll create a new layer, and it's underneath the outline most of the time, and I'll set it to multiply. And I'll drop opacity about 30-40, and my brush is set to 100 on the opacity setting. So because these lines aren't as clean, usually my lines are fairly clean, I'm able just to select the inside of the character and use it as a cheap little mask. So I'll just try to imagine where the light source you want it to come from. So let's say it's coming from this angle, and just try to imagine how it would affect. So I usually just go in and block it in fairly quickly. Eraser is also the same thing, just a basic round brush with a pressure sensitivity turned on, and everything's pretty much stock default settings.
Do you always see your shading with hard lines, or you try to soften the edges?
Like I said, I'll duplicate this and I'll do a blur effect to kind of help soften that up.
Yeah.
But sometimes on the more, if I want to do something a little bit more realistic, I do get the soft brush and just kind of airbrush some shading on it. There's nothing too crazy.
I'll use a Gaussian.
Use a what?
Gaussian blur on it.
Right. I need to do that.
How are we supposed to follow along? We still have to bring our laptops.
I did tell you to bring y'all's laptops.
Huh?
I said to bring y'all's laptops. You want to follow along?
How are we supposed to follow along? Give us the picture to work on.
Come on. Do we have a shared network drive?
All right, next class, you have to give us all a picture to draw on.
All right.
So that we can actually literally follow along. Because I mean, otherwise I'm just drawing whatever.
Yeah, you can put it on the members drive on the help server. No big deal.
Yeah, I didn't bring anything. You guys don't have any old sketches or anything?
We didn't know we were supposed to.
Did I not mention that? I
This
thought I
is
said
all
that.
you, Jose.
Oh, I'm a horrible instructor here. It's my first time doing it, so
Yeah, it's your
it's
first
a
class.
learn.
it's first class and you screwed up big time.
Right. It's a learning phase.
Wow, I've never heard Ray be mean before.
Oh, yeah, look. Earlier I was talking, and when I was setting up my machine, he's like, "Shut up or shut up, Jose." I was like, "Jeez."
He's talking to her. He has like 15 minutes left. We weren't even done yet setting up.
I was in an interview.
They're being mean to me. Rescue me.
Why? I'm being mean because you were late.
I'm host. That's like my thing. It's like, you know how
That doesn't.
the Ninja Turtles say "Cowabunga" and Bart Simpson says "Ay caramba," and I'm just late. That's my catchphrase. That's right. I don't even show up sometimes. Aww. Saddest violin playing your saddest little song. It's right there. It's right there. See the little. There's a little violin right here. Violin. I don't know how to spell. Smallest, saddest. That's gonna be streaming. Now, see, now we're getting messages about this class. Now you hear that, you guys? You guys are ruining my class. You guys are digging this? I don't know. I thought this would be boring.
Yeah, I want to see you do the blur on it.
You want to see me mess this up? All right. Saying basic round brush, nothing special. I don't know if you guys are getting that. I've been saying that a lot here. There's nothing special about this.
I think there's something special to it.
I felt there was nothing special about Jose's birthday party. That's why I didn't show up. I'm just joking. I don't want to see any emails about this class.
Have you played with Corel Painter?
Yes. I liked it actually. I liked their. They had some pretty cool calligraphy brushes on there. I used to use it a lot, like 5 years ago.
It's greatly improved over.
Has it?
Yeah.
But like I said, when I did painterly stuff, I'd over-render stuff, you know, and I got caught up trying to make it as photoreal or as smooth as I could, and in the end, I'd never like what I did, so I kind of gave up on it for a bit. Give up. If it's too hard, just give up. Somebody's messaging me. I need to know who it is. The video is down there saying.
Oh well. You can pop it open and restart it.
That's Tim. Thanks, Tim, you jerk.
Pop it open. Stop it.
Load it.
It'll just be 2 movies instead of
Okay, but it's still keeping the previous stuff. All right, perfect. Can you turn the audio off? I'm just joking. All right.
Can we keep certain people from watching?
Tim, please stop watching the streaming of this video. I'm kind of trying to be quick since I get caught up in it though.
How long did it take you before you were proficient with the shading stuff without a photo reference?
Honestly, I don't know. Probably. I would have to say maybe a year or two after I graduated from college, because it takes memorization and some. It's just kind of almost becomes muscle memory at some point. You know, you don't really think about it; you just kind of do it. But there are some areas where I do still kind of struggle to, and I'll look for some reference or something. Also, I learned how to do 3D at school, so I think that probably also helps kind of imagine the shapes that are not there. Definitely, sculpting would be huge help as far as shading and understanding body and the shapes of your parts of your body, your face, and whatnot. So it's all memorization, lots of practice, repeated practice. Looking at photos, studying other people's artwork is huge if you're trying to develop your own art style. Like, I used to be fans of so many comic book artists growing up, and I would just mimic their stuff until I kind of just started developing and playing around with my own idea. As a kid, I used to follow Jim Lee's artwork. Comic book art is what I was more into when I was a kid. So Jim Lee, J. Scott Campbell, Joe Mad, Humberto Ramos, several other anime artists and stuff like that also were a huge influence that I try to mimic and copy. And as a kid, I loved Looney Tunes, cartoons, Yogi Bear, Hanna-Barbera stuff, and I drew that all the time. So I was always into drawing stylized characters even as a kid. I just always found reality boring, and I wanted to reinterpret it in my style and how I saw life and things, or how I wish things might have been also. So.
Week on color theory. Do you play around with the undertones of the shadows?
Not really.
You just always stick with one?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
Sometimes, like I said, if I'm trying to reach a certain saturation or desaturation, I'll mess with that a little bit, but not too much. I might do that in the lighting more than I do with the shading. All right, let's just say this is close to getting done. So the next step would be duplicate the layer, like I said beforehand, and then from there, I'd mess with the blur, Gaussian blur tool set here, or the filter. And you can kind of get a gauge of how much bloom you want, like how ominous or how. I usually don't try to do too much, just kind of give it a little bit of softness to it. You see the difference with and without. And then after that, just play with the opacity. And like I said beforehand, I also do the line work. So I'll do that, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. It's all blurs, that's what I do. Kind of gives it that film cell look that I was talking about earlier. And then you play with the opacity on that. And that's pretty much it as far as shading and the line work goes. My monitor looks alright. I don't know how it looks like up there. Monitor is also a huge part in your artwork. You want to look for a nice, solid monitor that's going to give you good color representation. Because I've worked on different monitors, and I worked on shitty ones before, and they're nasty overlays. Like, you think it's one color on this one, and then you take it to another monitor, and it's completely different tone. So your monitor has a lot to do with your tool set here. So don't cheap out on a monitor if you're going to be doing some painting or Photoshop editing or anything like that. That's huge. So all right, this is my line. group those shading, and I hate that this thing goes to the background. My laptop monitor isn't really the monitor that I use for all my coloring and painting, so these values are going to be different. Some people like to use lasso tools for their coloring, which probably could work here too, but I don't know. I just like the feel. I like to pretend that I'm painting, I guess. The psychology of just using the pen and markering it in. This feels so disconnected, mechanical, robotic. So before people start saying, why don't you just do this? That's why I don't do it. So shut up. Not saying you're wrong, but you are.
For that, over like selecting with the wand or or something.
Like what? Just fill, like
Yeah.
magic wand select. Well, there's breaks in this line. It's not a clean line, so usually if when I am doing a final one, my lines are fairly clean, so I would be able to do that. And then you could just fill it like that. But like I said, I like to do this instead. I feel like it takes about the same amount of time anyway, so. What Ray was talking about was magic wand like that, but since I have so many breaks in the lines, it selects everything in the background, as you can see. You don't want that. I could probably do this though. There we go. Select, magnify, expand. This is a low res image, so I'll just do 1 pixel. Oh God. Do the hair next. Do a separate layer. Yeah. Too much. You got any comments? You want to say anything or questions? Where do babies come from?
Would you paint yourself as a yogi?
As a what?
As a yogi?
Yogi? Yogi Bear? No, I actually did these for a client. They were starting a meditation bar in Austin, Texas.
What is a meditation bar?
Meditation bar is a place where you can get shit faced while you're doing yoga. No, I'm just joking. It's It's just the name of a meditation center. They call it meditation bar because they're trying to be Austin, trying to be cool and hip. But they're trying to just focus on meditation, not the actual like religious part of it. The Eastern religion. They just want to focus on meditation there.
Sounds pretentious.
It is. It really is. But instead of this girl, they actually went with the caveman that was meditating instead. So, well, it was they liked it because they were they had some pamphlets that went with it, and they were talking about the history of meditation. So I did a little cartoon character of since the beginning of time, man has been meditating kind of thing. So. He actually looked like the caveman dude from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. I don't know if you guys remember that. Usually I'm playing like Netflix and Spotify and YouTube right now while I'm drawing, so.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it sucks. I feel like that gorilla that got shot over the weekend. Just people looking at me.
I'd shoot you if you like
Ugh. See that's annoying. Like I want to use my eyedropper tool, but I can't because it goes.
If you click on colors, the colors tab, next to the no, just click into it. You don't have to break that.
Oh God.
And you click on the foreground color. That should do it. Yeah. So when you use the eyedropper now, it should go into that.
Nice. Thanks, Long. Long, you get a free ride.
I should be teaching this class.
Awesome. Dude, I've had that for like 3 months now, and it's just been getting on my nerves. You'd think I'd Google it. Alright.
Do you have
What?
any rules for anatomy? Like, right here I'm seeing that you're breaking a little bit of normal anatomy by her body obviously being really, really thin, and then her elbows coming down to what I can only guess are like lower than her rib cage, but it still looks decent.
No, I change it. Like this one, I like the lotus pose thing, so I made her arms a little bit more stringy and long to kind of emphasize that gesture. I'll stylize the image according to gesture sometimes. Like even like if a girl has her weight shifted and her hip is kind of thrown out to one side, I'll actually dislocate that leg to push that hip out even further, and people don't seem to complain about it. So I'll break the rules sometimes just to push the gesture.
Do you ever really? I can't recall if you really worry about the rib cage very much.
Depending on the body type, but not really. Ooh, what color should I make her pants? Any suggestions? This is gonna be a community drawing, you guys. Galaxy pants? What is? Or does that require me drawing a galaxy in there? Ah. Well, if I was gonna do that, the whole Milky Way galaxy, or is there a specific one? Yeah, that's how I cheat. Like, I'll actually go in there.
It's just a spike
Yay.
Which one looks good? This one looks good. I've never seen Galaxy yoga pants, so I don't know. Sorry, bro, I'm stealing your image. Cancel.
Copyright infringement.
Not anymore. So I'll actually do this sometimes. I'll cheat because I'm lazy. Alright. I'll do a color and then I'll make a mask based off the color here. No. Select, modify, expand, 1 pixel, fill. Shh. You guys are staying after school. D Hall. All right. And that selection. Hooray. She's totally enlightened, bruh. Should the top be the same thing? Huh?
Galaxy Unitary.
Well, I could probably fill it in. One thing I do need to learn is I need to learn how to draw hands. Like, I still struggle with that.
I was gonna compliment you on the articulation of your hand.
Well, that took me forever, and if you pay attention, I actually didn't want to draw the other hand, so I just mirrored it. It's like, fuck that. Not doing that again. I'm just laying it all out, you guys, so you'll know how I'm not anything. I'm not great or anything. Just a regular guy, just trying to make pretty pictures. So there's that. Let's see what it would look like. Ooh, that actually looks kind of cool. Totally enlightened, bro. Where's my shading? There's the line. There's my colors. Also, try to keep your artwork, your workstation fairly organized. That way you can move around and find things easier. Doo, 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 doo. Color definitely adds, you can see things a little bit better. I could probably get rid of these insults that I threw in here. And then what am I doing here? Oh, okay. Do a simple background here. Where are you, shape? See, here's those leaves that I did on the other cat drawing. I just took that and I multiplied that a bunch of times to create the background.
Which version of Photoshop are you using?
I think I'm using CS3. It's fairly old. See what we got. Again, I like to play with blurs and stuff to create some effects. Try to see what radio blur does. Didn't do anything. Preview. I think solid white. So there's that for now, I guess.
So would you do anything like the paint, you don't want to do the shadow would you do anything like that character, or would you just leave it as is?
I'd probably go back and play with the opacity on these. I got a mask on them already, so what I'll probably do is just try to create a base, like a solid white one. That way I can play with the opacity on this thing. And sometimes if it's too dark, I'll actually color the lines so you can see some of the detail. Let's see here. See, you can see where I where I started duplicating things here. There's the head, here's that wrist, here's the other side. Just duplicate these, flatten that, take this outside, bring in your colors again. And I like this lock color layer. I don't know if you guys know about it. It's a pretty basic tool. It actually locks everything that's not transparent, and you can paint over that area. So right now I'm doing that with the colors. So I'm going to add some white over here. As you can see, I'll just color in the side that you need. So it gives a pretty cool rim lighting effect to it.
Would you show me where that lock is?
You see my mouse over here?
Yes.
It says lock here. It's the first checkered pattern. So if it's transparent, it won't color there. And if you have a gradient, let's say using the soft brush here, when you do the lock here, you can actually it'll just lock those colors in, and it'll only affect those. Let's try a different color. See how it goes away. I did a little gradient brush, airbrush thing there, so the more opaque the color is, the more transparent the more transparent. It's a pretty cool little tool. I like it. So yeah, doing stuff like that will help pop your drawing, the line work. I don't like that. Oh, that's another reason too. I think my colors, my line colors are. Sometimes solid black does help. Doing a softer brush, try to give it a bit of a gradient here to this. I'm going to treat this white line as a highlight. So, I mean, you can go on forever playing with this. So, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's pretty much my process. There. Whoa, where'd my pressure go? I lost it. Do some highlights. Sure. Do a little bit of lighting first. Lighting, I try to do a little bit softer, not as harsh. Oh boy, where are you at? Oh, I'm erasing. There we go. Get them yoga pants in there. a lot of the times when I do highlights, it's usually not very realistic because like right now, I'm not even following my same rule that I did for the shadows. I'm concentrating more on the backlighting from the as if the floral pattern in the background is giving off light. And martini, right? Come on. What are you doing? There we go. I got. We're just gonna fudge it.
You don't have a draw.
I don't know how to draw. Somebody's finally got me. He found me out.
Busted.
Pulled the fast one on you guys. They're usually pretty chilled drinks, aren't they? Just kind of spilling it.
The cosmic drink.
It's a Cosmo, yeah. I don't like the way that's reacting. What's going on? Oh. I don't know what martini glasses look like, so they're flat in the bottom, right? Oh, that's one I want there.
guess you get a big one. Well,
Thanks. Wow. Stars. Thanks.
That looks like it. I like my blur effect, so I gotta throw that on there. Oh, great, the olive. What? Why is it not coming through? Thank you. Doo-doo-doo. So yeah, get kind of the idea. Basic crash course there. Of course, the final output would be 300 DPI and more hours spent on it. So, was that the full time? That's something. Tim Perkle says that it's back up. It's the streaming went well, even though I after explicitly told him not to watch the stream anymore. But all right, that's it, I guess, for now. Hope you learned something. Yeah.
It was the first class, so you know, it was good. It was good.
Good enough. I was just trying to show that I mean, there's not much to it. Just some blur effects and some layering and lots of. The hard part is just sitting down and practicing every day and doing it over and over and over and over to develop your own style. This is the way I approach my artwork. Hopefully this helps develop or, you know, puts you in a direction that maybe if you were lost and you're like, oh, wow, now I got a basis to jump off from. So any questions, any comments, any derogatory remarks you want to make towards me?
You're talking about color recording on the monitor and everything. Do you use some sort of color calibration tool or anything?
No, but I just make an effort of just like doing some research on, you know, best reviewed monitors and take advice from other artists too, because I've had people like the monitor that I'm looking at right now that I want to get. Somebody told me that they use it, and the only beef they got against is that they put out a lot of heat. So I mean, stuff like that, you know, because if you have a small room and if you don't have good air circulation, that is actually a thing that could come up. You don't want to be sweating right in front of your machine, you know, especially when you're working on artwork because you're in front of it for hours at a time. So.
Is what you were streaming going to be posted anywhere?
Ray said we're on YouTube, right? We're gonna
Yeah, it's on
upload these.
YouTube.
Yeah,
Are you
it'll
on
be
YouTube?
2 videos because we had a break in the middle,
Gotcha.
so it's gonna break it into 2 pieces.
Can I get the YouTube channel?
He'll have it. I don't know if you follow our Drink and Draw page on Facebook. We'll
From
post a
Maker-
link there.
From Makerspace?
Yeah, I saw it on the announcement,
Okay.
and so I like.
Alright.
All right.
Do you get on the top spot down with Makerspace? Alright. Well,
Afterwards,
I'll write
touch
down
base.
something for you.
Okay, cool.
Anything else? That's it. All right. Cool. Thanks. I also misspelled yoga.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh my god, now.
I saw your. It's something on my fridge.
There's the world right there, the Milky Way.
Is this the mic you were talking about? Like,
No, this is Ray's mic.
Okay.